Hello.
Oh,
Oh, there
there we go. Sorry, Christopher. I was asking if you could introduce yourself, and it was
oh, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't hear anyone. Sorry. Yes, Christopher Facundo. I am on the board as for parking advisory board as the public member.
thanks for being on, Christopher. And just if we message or if we forget to circle back to you or if we're having tech issues. Okay. Seth, will you introduce yourself?
Seth Brandenberger, Business Improvement District Representative.
Joan Taylor, residential parking permit holders representative.
Sandy Scholl, downtown business rep.
And I'm Julia Gustafson. I should introduce myself at the front. I'm the property owner rep and the chair of the committee. So that is all five of our committee members. So we have a quorum. I'm not going to torture you all and not make you all introduce yourselves now, but staff, will you introduce yourself? Yeah.
Chris Good, Deputy Director of Transportation.
David Kanaki, Director of Transportation.
Okay, so a couple announcements and housekeeping items at the front. This is a public meeting, obviously, we have several people of the public today, so I'm gonna do a time limit on any public comment for 3 minutes. So just know that, and then when we do a couple of public comment throughout the agenda, that you'll get a new 3 minutes if you do it a second time. We have some of our regular agenda items, and then we have a special agenda item. Well, kind of new. The reason that we're meeting this week instead of next week is to discuss the street parking request. But we had some regular business to go through first. So we do have public comment at the front, but we will take public comment again when we get to that agenda item. We sure try hard to follow some sort of decorum with our keeping to one agenda item at a time, trying not to interrupt. So when we're at an agenda item, we have a presentation, then committee members ask questions until we've exhausted all of our questions. And then we, if we're going to vote on something, we open it up for public comment. If we're not going to vote on it, then we can move on. Just for those who are unaware of how it works for public meetings. And I think that's all my announcements, housekeeping thing. We also, or that's all my housekeeping. We also do announcements at the beginning from committee members. This is a time when committee members can share any observations about parking, perspective from the groups they represent, or musings on the state of parking in Helena. So committee members, do you have any announcements at this time?
I would just comment on lot 3. First, parking, we complained about the weeds in lot 3 and the dead vegetation. So parking went out there, the parking staff went out there and cut down a lot of the dead junipers. And then last year or the year before, the sidewalk was replaced. And now Northwestern Energy is out there, and they have they're moving the poles out of the sidewalk up into the vegetation that was already removed by. They have heavy equipment in the landscape beds that are going back and forth and would have destroyed the vegetation that was removed anyway. But then on top of that, they're moving the poles up into the beds. So now the new sidewalk is going to have, I'm just wondering if those areas are going to be filled there for almost. But on top of that, they've been coning off the street and the sidewalk all week. That they leave their cones there, you know, when they're not working. And I wonder if they have a construction permit for those parking spaces.
They have a permit for the street, and I'd have to double check with the staff if they pulled their construction permits for those spaces.
Okay.
So your big question is, for my little notes.
Well,
There's happenings in lot 3.
I would just say we were. Where our office is across the street, we were not informed, but then. I'm not sure what kind of. Schedule Northwestern had, or maybe they didn't have a schedule, but it just, I'm also wondering what's gonna happen to the landscaping now. That they're driving, their excavator back and forth inside the vegetation area.
But thank you for your announcement, Seth. Joan or Sandy?
Don't think I have any of my people, we'll talk later about the petition and the thing, so.
Christopher, do you have anything in this announcement section?
No, I do not.
Surprise, I do. All right, so, again, Julia Gustafson, I was thinking, always thinking about parking. And, someone was kind of asking me the history of parking and I was doing the best, so. I thought I would give a brief history again of kind of our parking system downtown. A lot of this, predates, this committee's involvement. But as I understand it, we had urban renewal in downtown Helena, and then after that, the first parking garage was built in 1975. Then a lot happened that I don't know about, but the Helena Parking Commission was established in 1991, and that was an independent agency that managed parking. It was a parking commission. That dissolved in 2019, and then parking came under transportation at that time. I don't remember these dates, you told them to me, but transportation used to be under public works, and then they split the two of those. Did parking come over at the same time?
About the same time.
Yeah. So parking now lives under transportation in 2019. Also in 2019, that was the start of the Passport kiosk apps to manage the hourly parking on pretty much the main drag of downtown. Is when those were first put in, and then COVID happened. There wasn't a lot going on, and the 2024 something happened, and I don't quite know. Maybe Sandy, you know better, but in the early part of 2024, small business owners or a group of community people got together and wanted to have some roundtable discussions about parking. And I think the BID at that time helped host them. You guys transportation was involved, and one of the solutions that came out of that was, somewhere to talk about parking, and that led to the creation of this committee, this parking advisory committee. And so this committee was, created in resolution and all that in the last summer, 2024. And then we had our first meeting in September of 2024. And so we are an advisory committee, which means the big things we do is we listen, we ask questions, we digest the information, and then we make a recommendation back to the commission, because we can't talk about every issue in depth in commission meetings. That's why there's all these other committees that can specialize in something. So the five of us are volunteers on this committee. Learning way more than we wanted to about parking and the parking history. But I've been pleased with what we've learned in the last year. And, we're figuring out the process as a new committee of how it works to bring recommendations to the commission. And like anything, it's not quick, and we are a unique state that we have the right to participate in our constitution, which means we have public meetings and we, take time to hear comment from the public. So again, I want to thank you all for being here today and your patience as we, follow the order of business that we have. Okay, so that's my little history presentation. I've also been reflecting on, what is the goal of having this parking system in downtown Helena? And we talk about this kind of in different ways during our meetings. And the big one that comes to mind for me is that it's a shared infrastructure, that we have shared parking lots, streets, garages, that can host a variety of users who come downtown for a variety of reasons. And so that, that's parking garages. So not every business has to buy their own parking garage or have their own lot. We have the shared infrastructure. Another reason for our parking, and specifically having paid parking on the street, is that it's a system to encourage turnover. And turnover helps the perception of parking downtown, that you can come downtown and quickly find a spot. And so paid parking is one of the tools to encourage turnover, that those highly desirable spots, people move from, and so the next person can come in and find a spot if they're in a hurry. And then, paid parking also supports back to the shared infrastructure, the maintenance of that structure. That's why it's so common to see parking garages charged for, use of them to maintain them. And both these things kind of filter into helping support a dynamic downtown. And I had someone this week, describe downtown as a delicate ecosystem, that we need mixed uses, and we need the small businesses, and we need the big employers, and we need the state contracts, and we need, you want to be able to walk down the street and get your hair cut, get a cup of coffee, and go to work and buy a present all in the same block. That's pretty cool that you can do that in some blocks. And that then there's spaces where we can gather in our downtown, that we have public spaces like our walking mall, like our parks. And those are supported by a place that the cars could go somewhere else, so that we can gather as humans in a human scale space. So that's my musings on parking today. We'll see what I come up with next month. But moving on, let's talk about minutes, which we do not have minutes because we moved this meeting up a week. And so
That was kind of you.
well, at least we could do, since we moved it up a week. We'll do the minutes at our December meeting, we'll do both months. And we will not have a meeting next week, if that wasn't clear. This is a November meeting. Okay,
So, no, okay.
does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Item number 5, we're rolling right along. Public comment. My favorite time of the day. We're gonna get my timer. As you give public comment, and then I will do a 3-minute timer. And please introduce yourself at the start of your comment. Who would like to? Oh, wait,
This is for not items on the agenda, correct?
yes, but we're kind of loose on it, so, we wanna fudge. I love public comment. Would you like to start?
No, I don't.
Okay. Who has come
Why don't
on?
we do introductions and say, if you say no, not that big. It's been a long time here. Kristen introduced.
You want to move to?
Yeah, someone would just introduce yourself, you know who the players
We're
are.
going off book.
Well, that's what.
No, I know, usually I don't, yes.
Or do we do that later? No.
Oh, we have 2 people online. Okay.
I'm happy to introduce myself.
Yeah.
I'm Christina Barberchano. I'm the executive director of the Holter Museum of Art.
I'm Mark Orlowitz, worked out of an architect. I was on the BID board at the time that the master plan was developed, and we had a consultant come to town and give us some guiding principles on parking. And just figured when we get to that point on the agenda, like.
Great. We'll just do introductions real quick, because that was helpful for Sandy, and then we'll come back to longer.
Laura Anton, I work for Old Salt. You're just listening in tonight, on the hospitality for the organization.
I'm Abigail Dolan. I'm the program manager at BID.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Ryan, Executive Director of the Helena Business Improvement District.
My name is Frances Coy. I'm a resident of downtown low-income building, and I'm here to challenge giving tickets to people who live downtown.
Anybody online want to introduce themselves? Or we can also see your name. Looks like we have Dean Barta and Michael Barta, Michelle Barta. No.
There. It's Michelle Barta. And hi there. I'm a small business owner. I rent space downtown right across from the Windbag, behind Base Camp. And I just wanted to learn more about what's happening with the parking downtown.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm Dean Barta, husband of Michelle Barta. And I also rent space in the Lion Building, and always interested on how things can be improved downtown.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Now let's go to actual public comment. Who would like to give public comment?
I have more questions.
Okay, so
Questions.
let me tell you how public comment works. Sorry to interrupt you.
I do know how public comment.
Okay, so you can ask the questions and we will not answer the questions during public. Great.
I was a
Let me-
school superintendent, so I'm very well aware of how
You're
public
well
comment
aware.
works. Yeah,
Great.
I go to board meetings.
Yes,
Um,
wait.
And then I only want to ask if because I have a time constraint, so I don't know if I'll be here when the agenda comes. I did read the idea of the validated parking, which is something that the Holter could be potentially interested in. I would recommend, or I guess love for the commission or the BID or the city to consider providing small grants for nonprofit organizations in order to provide validated parking. I think that would be a really great way to support nonprofits who really can't afford to shoulder the burden of validated parking, but it would help us support our patrons. And you know, the Holter itself is a strong economic driver of downtown. A lot of people begin their date or their evening or their activity downtown at the Holter or ended at the Holter. So that's just an idea that I had when I read about the validated parking. And then the second question I was curious about, and I had heard at some point, actually at the original meeting in 2024, when it was very heated and it was at the BID. But I can't remember how much is owed on all the kiosks, and I'm curious about that. And having been a school superintendent, one of the thoughts I had about maybe potentially solving some of the problem of the need to have paid parking downtown, in particular to pay off the kiosks and all of the infrastructure that is still being paid off, would be to run a one-time levy of some sort, pay it off, and go back to free parking. Now, it's just an idea that I had had, because I think if every taxpayer knew that, okay, I can pay a one-time tax of $23.76, they may very well be interested in paying a one-time property tax of that amount, whatever it is. I'm making up an amount, but it did not seem like what was owed was really that much. And it doesn't solve the problem of maintenance and upkeep, but it does potentially at least take that piece out of it. So those are that was
3 minutes exactly, good work. All right, thank you for your comments. Other public comment? Everybody else will be shy.
I'll be shy, yeah.
Last 8 times when I was ever shy.
Please
So
introduce yourself.
Abigail Dolan, program manager of the BID. I think this will be my last parking meeting for a little bit because I have some projects with BID that's going to take up a lot of my time. But I just wanted to re-say my public comments that I've said for the last 8 times is I think you guys have a PR crisis on parking. It's full transparency is not there, and we've definitely seen that with the Lot 3 fiasco that has happened. We've had sorry, I'm going to talk really fast for 3 minutes. We've had the project manager come in from Northwestern Energy that said he was going to take up 2 street parking spaces and 4 parking spaces in the lot. He's actually taken up 6 street parking spaces and then 16 parking spaces in the lot. And now we get notice that the lot's going to be closed for 2 days. And so that's just giving you real numbers on the fact that they really don't care. And that's fine, except Lot 3 is oversold on permit, so that they're getting pushed out to the street and then we're getting tickets. If you say we're not getting tickets, it's still live because I got a ticket, had to appeal it. That's all to say, if we had a PR crisis, like social media is free for you to use and it's a great tool. There's Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, all of that. And it's easy to batch your content. And I created a little thing that I will send Julia, is basically what you could do for social media to get the word out there better. Like, for example, Mythbusters is addressing the myths that are floating around like the money going towards the kiosk, they're actually not going to the kiosk. As we know, you guys get annoyed every time someone brings it up, but no one knows that the money is not going to the kiosk. So we need to use social media or press releases or something to get the correct information out there. And to be honest, there's a lot of information on the parking that could be bundled into bite-sized chunks on social media. And a solution that I found is the Helena Public Art Committee does have their own social media. So if you say that the Parking Advisory Committee can't have their own social media because it's tied to the city, it's actually, you can have your own social media. You would just once a month sit down, plan the next 2 months of content, and then have that go to the city manager for approval on all the content. And that'd be such an easy way. And it'd be 4 to 6 hours for one person to do for 2 months worth of education to the public. And I just want to drive that home because social media is the bane of my existence, but it works. It's free, it's there, it works. Please use it because we get yelled at, the BID gets yelled at a lot because we're trying to educate. Sorry, we're going to try to educate everybody, but it's hard when we're still learning too. So would love to work with you on this, but it's getting frustrating when it seems like I have said the same comment 8 times and nothing has moved forward.
I'm gonna cut you off on this. So sweet. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Welcome new folks. We're in our initial public comment of the day, and so we have a 3-minute time limit. Any other public comment at this time?
Yes, I guess I don't understand this residential parking. Let's see, there's something about residential parking here. I guess I don't understand parking A and B. The residential, can you explain that, please?
Are you finished with your public comment?
I can't make a comment, public comment
As
without
a-
knowing.
As a reminder, we can't answer questions during public comment, but we can listen and it may come up if you stick around.
Okay, well, I object to people getting tickets for disabled parking. If they have a disabled sticker or a plate and parking in front of a residential building, I object strenuously to people getting tickets for that. End of story. Disabled parking is for disabled people. If they're parking at a disabled spot, they should not receive a ticket. That's against federal and I believe state law.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment at this time?
I'm interested to learn more if there, Laura Anton, hospitality lead, for Old Salt Co-op. I appreciate some of the information that I have learned about parking and the reason for the parking the way that it is, to promote turnover in the downtown sector. I think that's really beneficial for business owners. We all need increased traffic and we would love more people to be visiting downtown and utilizing our services and our business and our nonprofits and our parks and everything down there. But there is a staff and a workforce that's involved in hosting these people. And a lot of people are in retail work or they're in hospitality work. And it's a lot of it's blue collar type work. And the parking fees for a lot of these people they're too expensive. And even to get permits are sometimes not available to get permits to park downtown for reduced parking rate. And so I would like to prompt this organization to consider if you are an employee of downtown and you need to park downtown, if there could be reduced parking rates that are available for people that work in the downtown sector. And that's all I have for comment.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment at this time?
Yep, this is Michelle. And I'm a small business owner with Peacebridge Reiki. I have a small office off the mall. And my opinion is I would like to see the parking fees go away. And I appreciated the history that was shared at the start of this meeting, so thank you for that. I don't see that the parking is helping people come to visit our businesses and our establishments. And also, I share the same sentiments that were provided earlier. There just isn't enough information being shared about what's happening with parking in downtown Helena. And I found out about this meeting through the BID. So thank you for sending that. It did dawn on me one idea for consideration is to perhaps put information about the parking situation on the kiosks, or perhaps on the kiosks in the middle of the walking mall where people post events. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. All right, final call.
May I add to my
My
name is,
Oh, yes, add your name, because I didn't want to actually.
give a name, my name is Frances Roy Evans. I live at the Atlas Building. And I do not believe that people who live downtown should have to pay parking in front of their building. It's just obscene. And people who are low income and kind of forced to live downtown cannot help finance the city parking budget. It's really difficult to pay parking every day or $70 a month at a, if you're on an extremely limited budget. It's just not possible. The veterans don't have to pay, so I don't think disabled or poor people should have to pay in front of their own building.
Thank you, Francis. Okay, here another.
Or for I'd say, so go ahead. I feel like some historical context for people, maybe. If you were around here 10 years ago and paying attention to downtown issues. I was on the BID at that time, and we were just beginning a master planning process, and we had a consultant come to town who identified one of our top problems being. We had a perception of downtown Helena that there was no parking because people would come downtown. There was free parking on Last Chance Gulch. You couldn't find a spot because they were all full of people who were working downtown, and they called them rollers, and they would just every 2 hours or every 1 hour, every 2 hours, move their car a little bit and take all the spots. And so businesses were getting choked off because one key thing, if you're a downtown retailer, is people need to be able to drive in front of your business, find a parking spot within the block, or they'll just keep going. So, and we had paid parking for their way, but who want to go pay for parking in a crummy spot that's not on Main Street, right on Last Chance Gulch. So there was a big perception that there was no parking because you couldn't get parking on Last Chance Gulch, and the city tried reducing the time limit for the free parking to 1 hour, which discouraged rolling because that starts to really interrupt your day. But at that point, it was not enough time for business to have people come have lunch, not enough time. In the end, the consultant came downtown identifying issues there. Said, you've got your parking pricing backwards. What you have to do is charge more, at least something for your prime spots, charge less for the more remote spots. That helps to provide parking for employees and things. And the people who are down there to spend money can get a spot. You want to have enough turn so that at any given time there is an open space on each side of the street, on each block front, so that there's churn, and they've demonstrated that maximizes the amount of income that gets generated in the retailers. So as part of our master plan, under parking pricing, it says price parking to create high turnover and desirable convenient locations. It should be more expensive to park in front of a business than to park in a garage. Retail storefront parking should turn over 20 times per day, which is another way of measuring this churn thing. But I'm probably out of time. But I just want to say there is a reason the parking is paid, and if you were here when it was free, it was a disaster. It's got to be, anything has to, like that, it's a scarce resource, has to be managed and pricing appropriately. which is what they do. Read Jeff's textbook, Walkable City. He's got a great chapter in it. It's a wonderful book if you care about vital downtown. And it's super readable and clear. And I used to send back PDFs that I copied out of the book to the BID members.
What's the name of the book?
Walkable City by Jeff Spath.
And that's your time. Thank you. Right. Other public comment? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to our section on updates from city staff. Oh, I'm so excited. You guys are gonna love this. Parking map update. So, for context, we've been working on 2 different kinds of maps. One of the maps that needs to be updated, and it is slightly embarrassing at this point, I'll just say that, but it's not updated, is the graphic that lives online. That is the first time to hell in the parking. But what I'm excited about today, which I assume you're gonna start with, is the internal resource management map. And so, I'm gonna turn over to David in a second, but he's been working very hard on this, and this is the map of all the inventory downtown. Take it away, Dave. Oh, and make sure to share your screen online, please. Look at this, guys. This is really cool.
So this is because we can't get GIS to work on this computer that the smart board runs off of.
Oh.
This is an export to Google Earth. It doesn't have all the interaction, but it does get the point across. Everything just go away. There. Okay. So just I gave a graphic to Julia to kind of show 2-hour free parking and other free parking spaces, which are outlined in that green, and the pay to park is the spaces outlined in red. I'm just gonna start up here. So
I'm sorry, what was the first? We'll repeat that. Green is 2-hour free and red is pay to park.
correct.
So it also includes 1 hour free.
No, we're just doing 2-hour.
Yeah, the free parking does include the half hour, 15 minutes, but that's a very small number compared to the total number of 2-hour spaces. So the pink is Great Northern, which is excluded from our numbers because that's not a part of our parking system. So as you move towards the gulch and the prime spots, as Mark had talked about, there's the pay to park spaces. But we do have these 2-hour free spaces. These are the 4-hour parking permits that were created a number of years ago to assist with the hospitality folks that work different hours. So you can get an AM that goes from 8 to 12, you can get a mid, which is 10 to 2, and then you can get a PM, which is 1 to 5. And they're $30 a month for those permits. There's these permits here. There's permits up here along Cruz. You'll see some other colored, those are permit areas, handicap spaces, and what have you. So as we continue down, the main core area is pay to park, but there are permit areas up here. There's 2-hour free. As we get down towards the walking mall area, obviously it decreases a bit because of the there's no more, the street is now the walking area. But we do have the parking garage and just some public information on that one. That parking garage, including 88 spaces, has 413 spaces in it. And currently we have 395 permits sold out of that garage.
So let's say that number again.
413, 395.
That's what?
Almost
6th Avenue.
6.
So, we get a lot of comments that 6th is, it's not being used. It's, the top deck is empty. Everything is, top deck is empty, correct. But we have those number of permits sold there. And we've been talking with the parking committee about what's our oversell rates on some of these, because when you buy a permit, you expect to have a permit when you show up to park. So if, you know, I don't know all the reasons. I think there's remote work, there's, you know, people that are working different shifts, there's all contributing to not having anybody, you know, a lot of empty spaces. But if you look at just the pure numbers, you know, there should, that garage should be full on a daily basis if you just look at the permits.
Also, no, I think you told me that the city cars in that lot paid for a spot.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
are all
so
saved.
City was right, they paid for that.
And then, sorry, Sandy, let's try to let David do his whole presentation, then we'll ask questions.
So just moving down the road, you know, here's these spaces are all permits. This is pay to park down here on that piece of park. And as we get farther south, there's more and more 2 hour. This is not posted. This is not posted. So that's where we've gone. I can tell you, so some of these numbers they're not artificially low. We had to use some component to decide how many parking spaces are on the street. So we typically use 20 feet as a parking space. So these numbers could be low because if there was 530 feet, I didn't count the 30, I counted 520 feet and I divided by 2, and that's how I got the parking space. I didn't do pieces of the parking space. So there are areas that could have, you know, another space here depending on the size of cars. But if there was a difference between a multiple of 20, it was rounded down, not rounded up. So just for some basic numbers, which will also be Chris's presentation, total garages between 6, Medical Arts, Jackson, Getchell, and 15th, we have 1,411 spots in garages. Our surface lots, we have 548 spaces. You know, I can go, but the big number, or the one I think most people are interested in, is there's 278 pay to park spaces downtown. And just the 2 hour free parking spots, there's 506. So almost double the amount of pay to park there are free parking spaces downtown and around. There are some areas that, like I said, that we've been working with the parking committee to kind of move some spaces around to make it a little bit easier for people to find parking, or to expand the 4-hour parking permit program. Some of those have been discussed and finalized, as you see up here. There's others that we'll have continued conversations on as we go throughout. How much detail would you like me to go, Madam Chair?
I don't.
Yeah.
Thank you for that presentation. I failed to mention at the beginning, the handout that I passed around includes these numbers that David used this tool to give us updated numbers. We just have great numbers, so those are what are in your little packet, and I can email this out for extra. So we've had versions of these numbers, but these are the better count that David's going to. Okay. Committee members, briefly questions about map, because I want to make sure we keep plugging through our agenda. Seth.
I have a question regarding Cruz Avenue up
North or south?
at the very end south. There's undesignated sites there, and those are essentially free parking, right?
Correct.
All day, all day.
They will be signed no overnight parking.
But all day there is free parking.
Yeah.
Okay. Then how many spaces are there?
Between this one and that one, I think there's like 30 some spaces, 35. And then we have some proposals for probably at a future meeting to talk about other places that we can have, no overnight parking, but no time parking. So essentially.
So,
Okay.
Does that conclude your question?
That's,
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks.
Sandy, 2 questions.
real quick on that. Overbright parking, like if I lived at the Atlas building and parked on that free spot, I'd have to move it at night. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Down here, yes, I mean,
Up on Cruise,
up down here, I mean, the Atlas building is quite a ways away from these spaces.
I'm saying, if I'm a resident, it has to even be the Atlas. If I was a resident,
But we haven't worked through all the details
Okay.
on that. We have to put something up there that somebody can't just go and park there. I mean, we have our 3-day, rule, but the idea is to ensure that people don't camp out in those spots. And they're open on a daily basis for people to use.
Can I ask a question?
I am
It's not
sorry,
normally
I'm
expected.
sorry that I cannot call on you during this part of time. So we just have committee members are asking questions during the staff report. Other committee members do have questions right now. Christopher, not seeing you, okay. I'm gonna keep moving us along, thank you for this, we'll look at the other map again next month. But since we have more pressing matters, we're gonna move to the next update for city staff. This is the rate process update, and so as a brief recap. We've been looking at the parking rates. This is for hourly parking, monthly permits, and also the fines for if you don't pay or if you stay too long. The committee met in August. We made a set of recommendations with staff. Those were presented to the commission in September. The commission decided not to act on them at that time, and wanted more information from us and more information from the public. And so in response to that, we've been talking about it, and good news, guys, parking survey is up today and live. So our survey will be up until December 5th. And this ties to the rates because that survey will help inform our next recommendation for rates. So David, did I miss anything, and can you give me an update on, can you add clarity on the timeline of rate changes, how they get approved and what fiscal year they would be?
Sure, so. We would take the recommendation from the committee, bring that forward to the commission for their consideration. In that recommendation, depending on how long it takes to get to that point, would greatly depend on the timeline of the implementations of any new rates. So I'm gonna punt on that one and just wait until when we get a kind of recommendation in front of the commission. We're already halfway through the year essentially. So any implementation would be at the latter half of this fiscal or potentially at the beginning of the next fiscal year in July.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. That one's just gonna kind of stay on the agenda, and again, we'll talk about the survey closes December 5th so that we can talk about it in our December 11th meeting. Okay, next one, budget. Oh, Chris, are you ready? Do you have slides?
I do have some slides.
Excellent,
I'll tell you, I wasn't able to get more of a fiscal picture,
great.
so into our February to July thing,
I'm thrilled.
so.
Oh, yeah, I'm still sharing the map. Let's switch.
there's not a handout of this, right?
No,
Did it switch?
now I did. Yep. Okay. Budget update, Chris.
It might be easier to keep it in the other, because we might go back and forth between these first two for a minute. Yeah. So hopefully that's kind of big enough for everyone to see, but. Want to move yours over a little bit more so I don't have to talk to the TV and I can
Oh,
talk that way.
you would like to look at my computer, is that what you're asking? Great, and then you talk to the room.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so the first slide is a recap of last fiscal year. Just to kind of give everybody an idea of sort of overall budgets and a couple of the categories that a lot of stuff falls into. And, I think I was actually pretty impressed at how close we got. So on the left side, you have revenue. So our total revenue budget last year was just over 2 million. we ended up $9,000 over that mark for the year. And so if we break that down into our biggest categories, the on street, you can see the budget, 363, came in at 367. Off street, 49, came in at 61. So we did a little bit better with that's basically the pay apart piece of the puzzle. And then permits, you can see we came in just a little bit under, but pretty close to that 1,470,000 number. Tickets, we came in pretty far under, about $35,000 under. So, I mean, if you put these two together, we're about, a little over $40,000 under on permits and tickets. And we're about, $15,000 over with the pay to park stuff. So about a $25,000 deficit. So you say, how did we come $9,000 ahead? There's a couple of small categories in here that don't go in, the boot fines, which are never, they're a couple $1,000s a year. But really, the difference is just the interest that we make on our cash reserves for the fund. So that was about $30,000 to $35,000 last year. So without that, I mean, we would have had a deficit year to the budget, right? So on the expense side, our original budget, and so to kind of clarify what that is just our base, operating budget. That's what it costs us for our personnel, regular operations, the debt service, and if we've budgeted any capital new for the next year. And then the REB, stands for revised budget, you can see is about 2.2 million. But COP, those are carryover projects. So those are projects that started before FY25 that were just carried forward into the year. So we brought forward about $250,000 worth of projects. Those were things like the deferred maintenance assessment on the garages, the repairs and improvements we made over at Getchell on the stairs, a lot of those big dollar type projects that were ongoing. So at the end of the year, about 2.1 million is where we spent. So more than the original, but the real number is the 2.2 of the revised budget. And if I exclude those carryover projects, we actually came in at just almost 1.9. So we were actually about $115,000 less than what we budgeted for our New Year stuff. So breaking that down into some of those categories. So personnel, you can see we budgeted 680,000. We only spent 575. That's because we pretty much had one vacancy for the entire year last year. Operations, you can see we came in about $15,000 under budget. Debt service is pretty much right on the mark. Capital, we spent about $5,000 or $6,000 less on all those projects at the end of the day. So then going forward to the next year. So the current year, you can see our revenue budget pretty close to the same, about 1.9 million. The actual, so these are through September. That's as far as our finance office has gotten posted so far. So there was a little bit of a change in our on and off street stuff from one year to the next. It's kind of drops into the same bucket now. So in total, it's a $450,000 budget. Through September, we've done 82. Multiply that by 4, 320. So it's a little low, but we do know that going into November and December, with the holiday months, those are higher earners the rest of the year. And then going into like the late spring, early summer months, those are higher as well. So we still have some higher months to come, which will it won't just be 80,000 a quarter. Permits, you can see we're at 800,000 out of the 1.4 so far. That sounds good, but that already includes all of our big ticket annual payments. So that's the $360,000 from the state fund, $50,000 or $60,000 from Department of Corrections. So all of our really big annual permits have already been paid in that number. So really from this point on, it's only new annual permits, which are only going to be about a half a year worth, and monthly. And so monthly permits, and you'll see on the next slide kind of how many we had, but generally there's about 400 monthly permits that we have. on average somewhere around $80. And so it was about $35,000 to $40,000 a month is what we really expect to go from October through the end of the year. So I think we'll still come in close to 1.4. I mean, you saw on the slide before, we hit that 1.4 number last year. Nothing has really changed. So I still expect it to get pretty close to that estimate. And then tickets, so far, a quarter of the way through the year, about $30,000 worth paid. So multiply that by 4, you should hit the mark. But as we saw last year, came in short. So tickets are kind of, I think this year our advantage is that we've added the online platform for you to pay the tickets. So it's a lot more accessible to pay. That's always been a challenge in the past. If people didn't want to come either to the chamber building or when we moved here before we had online, tickets just didn't get paid. Now they have the option to just quickly go online and pay it, and they get paid. So I think we're going to hopefully hit the numbers. On the expense side, you can see our original budget is again pretty close to the same that it was last year. Revised budget is the same. So we didn't have any carryover projects from last year. Everything that we had out was finished. We didn't bring anything into this year. And so year to date total, we're just at about 600,000. So this side of the chart is more up to date. So this is, I would say, more through October. Personnel. So if you switch back to the last year. So if you see personnel last year, right, was 680,000. And then coming to this year, it's 650. So again, we made some changes to personnel from one year to the next. We exchanged some admin time and made a couple other changes. And so that saved us quite a bit on the personnel budget. And so right now we're at just under 200. We are fully staffed finally. And so if you take 200 times 3, since it's more like 4 months worth of the year, should come in right around 600. So we should still see some personnel savings because we have had a vacancy for most of these first 4 months. So we will still see some personnel savings. On the operations side, so 725, I think last year it was about 700. So some of the savings that we saw in personnel, we put to operations. So the reason being last year that 700,000 was like a bare bones operation. That was just the maintenance guys could go around and like sweep up dirt. And if a screw or a bolt broke, they could get a new screw or bolt. But it was pretty limited on regular day-to-day maintenance that could happen last year. So we put some of that back in with the personnel savings that we saw so that they could actually have the ability to go to maintenance. Debt service, again, so this is the last year that it'll be that high. We'll drop off about $90,000 going into FY27. So that will free up a little bit of the budget. And so that, I mean, the 653 is what it is. The debt schedules and the amortizations are what they are. So that number's going to hit. And capital, so that's, we had $10,000 to try and replace a car because that car that's out there now, the only one we have, patrol car, is pretty much on its last leg. So we were hoping to get another surplus vehicle this year to try to save and not buy a brand new one. We've been able to kind of work out a deal with one of our other divisions under transportation for a much newer car that just wasn't getting a whole lot of use. It was actually the car that David and I had for administrative use. And so we park our butts here most of the day, most weeks. So I wasn't getting a whole lot of use. So we were trying to work out a deal with the finance department to try and transfer that asset and we'll be able just to make small payments over time instead of paying $40,000 all at once. We can pay maybe $5,000 to $10,000 a year. And then they would have a brand new vehicle that doesn't cost us $10,000 a year in maintenance. And then the other $45,000 worth in that capital number was all we really had left in order to stay at a balanced budget to do any of those big deferred maintenance type projects. So that's our capital. Those are the things like repairing garages. And so We're still trying to prioritize what we can do and what should be done first from that long list. I mean, $40,000 doesn't get you very far on a list of things that says you need to spend $1 million a year to get up to date, so. We're still identifying and prioritizing from that assessment on where that 40,000 should go first, so. You guys have questions on the budget side before we look at it?
Quick committee questions on the budget.
In a nutshell, would you just say, like, hitting the marks, what would you say, just how your budget is health wise? In the numbers, feeling pretty good about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think on both sides of the ball, you know, we manage it on the expense side. We manage that one pretty closely. You know, we have some divisions where things are not as tight as parking, and so we don't have to script pennies quite as much. But on the parking side, I mean, we pretty much make them ask permission before they buy anything, really, to make sure that we manage that right. So I'm pretty confident that on our expense side of the budget that we're definitely not going to go over. We're not going to have to ask for more on these. On the revenue side, like I said, I'm fairly confident on the pay to park numbers, the permits. It seems like it's coming in a little bit lower this year, but when we get to the next slide here, you can see that we're pretty full up when it comes to permits in a lot of spots. And so I think somehow, some way, like last year, we hit the number. I think this year let's build it. It gets and kind of depends on how things play out, but I think tickets will stay on a pretty good steady track with the online payment capability.
Just for the benefit of the public that's here, could you kind of go over the amount of deferred maintenance and your capital budget?
I think we will be going over that later.
Okay, all right, I'll make sure we get it.
Yep, and then just as a reminder for me, the debt amount, because you mentioned the 70,000. So that's the Jackson Street garage. That'll be the last payment on the Jackson Street garage for building that garage. And so then that other chunk of money is about 500,000 for the 15th Avenue garage.
Yeah, the payment.
The payment, yep. And then there's a little bit of debt for the kiosks. 2,000, I don't remember that number.
No, it's like 7.
Oh, 70,000, okay. So we have the Jackson Street almost done, and then we have the 15th Avenue garage, about $500,000, and kiosk, whatever that remaining difference is. Okay. Great, other budget questions, or I'm gonna move you along so that we keep going.
Yeah, so the next one, probably put this into the regular. So I went through our permit section, right? Because that was the one on the revenue side that I was the most concerned about. And so the reason I say that I think it'll find its way to get there. So if you go through our garages, I have the first number you see is the number of active permits in those garages. And then the number in blue off to the side is the total number of spaces in those garages. And so 6th Avenue, you can see we're almost 100% permits in 6th Avenue. You keep hearing there's nobody in there. The top deck's completely clear. So we just keep on selling them. But I mean, at some point, we're going to sell more permits than there are spaces, and that really doesn't leave a lot of room for the everyday come to pay to park for an hour or two. And then 15th Street is pretty much contracted out to the state fund. So we're actually oversold. There's a couple other businesses that through past practices have a handful of permits in there, and so we allowed that to stay just because the state fund really doesn't have a lot of employees coming to work at the moment. So schedule, you can see there's plenty of space, 210 permits, 427 spaces. So I know it's a little bit further out of the core, but plenty of space in there. And then Jackson Garage, I think we've had a few people fall off recently, so we're at 171 out of 80. That one's pretty much usually sold out 100% as well. And then getting down into the lots, you can see that we obviously have some lots that are more popular than others. Lot 9, Lot 8. Lot 3. Lot 10, right? Oh, yeah, pretty much all of them not sold to the frame. And then we have some that you can see there's plenty of space in 4, 5, and 6. Plenty of space in there for permits. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a quick clarification, because Julie asked this and, so prior to some lots being used, there was only 10 lots for the longest time in Helena. Lot 2, the reason lot 2 is not on here, lot 2 is where Jackson Street Garage is at this point in time. And then lot 15 and lot 16. Lot 15 is because it's adjacent to 15th Street, and lot 16 is because it's adjacent to lots. So there isn't missing numbers in here. This is just how they kind of fell out, so.
Oh, but there are only 11 lots, not 12, because two on this old map is now not a public lot.
Correct.
Okay, so that's a typo on the handout. There's 11 lots. Great, keep going.
And the rest of these are just a couple of other ones on that.
Yeah. Here's the helpful links.
Couple of helpful.
Okay,
So be here at Helena, the landing page, this is what you'll see. Downtown parking survey is right there. When you click on it, this is where it'll bring you to a little bit of blurb. When it will be discussed, survey open till, take survey is just a click there. There's some yes, no's, there's some how to use it, there's some logic questions in there, so a little bit of, so that's just.
all right. That was both agenda item C and D, correct?
Yes.
Or do you have more numbers on agenda item D, which is usage numbers?
Yeah,
No, okay, great. I just want to clarify. Committee members, any questions for, should be using the titles. Director Cooley and Assistant Director Cooley and Director Kanapke, right?
we know L, but yeah.
Cooley?
Mhm.
Oh. All right. Committee members, any questions? On the presentation? Great. Thank you for that. I think it's really helpful for us to look in the numbers and check in on the numbers. Because they are hard to digest. All right, now we're gonna move on to our regular items. Woohoo! Rates discussion and rates recommendations. I've kept this on the agenda. Because we have this recommendation out there that we need to bring back to the commission. And I did want to talk about it in more detail today, but because we have some people here for other things, I'm gonna move that down in case we have time. To be after the chamber proposal. Are all committee members okay with that? Okay. Now, this is gonna answer your question. Staff, we're gonna move to the parking infrastructure and surface lots and garages, maintenance schedule and debt history presentation. Let's see that spreadsheet. What's that show where they're like, show me the spreadsheet? Not a show? Not a show?
Let's make a deal or something.
There we go. Will you please share it to the Zoom as well, David?
I'll keep you busy all day.
Yeah. Okay, so this is gonna be hard to see it all at once, but we'll do the best. Okay. I know you're speaking to the computer and not to us. Okay,
So just quick overview, just to start with the debt. Right now, total debt remaining for parking is basically $7 million. Majority of that is obviously 15th Street parking garage. 221,000 and change is the kiosk and meters that were purchased. So. We took the 90 grand off.
Oh.
For Jackson, just
because it's coming off the budget. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're almost done. That way. Okay. And then did you have,
So deferred maintenance for those garages. That's
maybe tie some sounds if you need.
So deferred maintenance over 10 years, for 6 is 2.1 million. Medical arts is about 700,000. Jackson 1.5, Getchell 1.5 basically, and 15th is 1.6. And that's for normal maintenance items and some things that the evaluation saw when they came, but the big ones are like sealing the top decks, that concrete you seal on a regular basis. I can't remember the interval, it's like every 7 to 10 years, just kind of like our roads too with our chip seals. Those need to be sealed because of the UV and the constant freeze thaw. If we ever build another garage, I'm not gonna build one with an open deck, we're gonna have a roof on it. I think over time, if I actually went through this and figured out how much maintenance and snow removal and everything else, it's probably cheaper in the front end to build one that has a roof on it than to maintain it all the time. And then it's more of a premium parking anyways, because you don't have to scrape your windows in the winter and your car is in 1,000 degrees in the summer. So, I mean, it's kind of a win-win for both sides.
And a roof.
So yeah, so that's that. If you take just the kind of the operations and the the deferred maintenance. Right now, our current garage permit cost per space per year is about 900 and, cost per space right now is $1,515. About our current garage rates are $969, so we're about short by $500 per space.
I'm sorry, I think you're gonna have to explain what you.
So factoring in the operations, factoring in the deferred maintenance, operations is just normal day-to-day stuff.
Cost to the city for these spots is $50,000.
Yeah. And so we broke it down by space because it's talking about $14 million just as it's just difficult to discuss. It's not helpful either with per spaces, but it kind of is perspective, I guess. So now some of this deferred maintenance, if you've been up to Jackson lately, the top deck, our guys seal those joints between that, which took our guys some time, took a little bit of our money for supplies, but probably is a lot less money than if we would have contracted it out. So that's where we can start seeing some of these cost savings on this deferred maintenance, because these numbers are based on contractors doing work. So hopefully we can bring those costs down to more manageable. Again, not perfect numbers, just kind of something to have a discussion about. For our lots, PC lot 2 is on there. We just left it on there for Berry, but that was Lawrence. That's now. So the lots need occasional seal coats, chip seals. So that over 10 years is about 435,000. So if you look at what it costs just with the deferred maintenance and operations, it's about $857 per space per year. We're currently recovering like 798, so we're only about $60 short per space per year. So pretty close on that one. But we have, a lot less deferred maintenance on these. And then that's just a little bit of the history that you asked for.
Yeah, and we can dive into that more at another day. Okay. So I want us to just, as you fill this in, we'll keep checking on this. Any questions from committee members now on these numbers since we've been looking at these and trying to get this? I really appreciate the time spent on that. It's really helpful for us as committee members to understand what it costs to maintain this infrastructure and kind of the history of it. All right, cool. Agenda item C. Thank you for your patience. Free parking requests. So there was a petition from some downtown businesses for holiday parking. That petition was sent to the city and was brought up at a city admin meeting, was that just last week? That was just last week, last Wednesday. And the commission asked our committee to weigh in before they weighed in. And so that's why we moved this meeting up. And so we are weighing in on the free parking request. So I've asked the petition writers to give us a brief presentation and then we can talk about that. Thank you. I'm Savannah Barrett.
Hang on just one second.
Oh, wait.
Figure out who was.
Everybody's muted.
I think it was over here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Savannah, please.
Savannah Barrett, co-owner of Last Sort of Toys. I will read the petition if you would like that. Just the petition that our downtown businesses signed. It says, we, the undersigned local retailers, respectfully petition the city commission to allow free parking downtown during the months of November and December. The holiday season is critical for our businesses. For many of us, sales during this period determine whether we can cover payroll and operating costs through the slower months of January. With this year's added burden of tariffs impacting our prices and supply chains, we are now facing an even more challenging season than usual. We believe offering free parking would help attract more visitors to our downtown area, increase foot traffic, and encourage local shopping, all of which are vital to our survival. We appreciate your consideration and continued support of our local businesses. And then we have our signatures. So we are coming to you guys as just kind of a spokesperson of our downtown business owners who are having a harder time than usual this year. Do you want to add anything else? And just in general, trying to give people greater awareness of shopping local, shopping downtown. We have so much to offer. We have great shops, and we would like to see more people downtown. And some of these hindrances, or what people view as hindrances, with parking issues or lack of knowledge about parking, be resolved. So make downtown more attractive and help us survive. Would you mind explaining a little bit how you would see this working for you? One observation is that parking lots are full after 5 p.m. and that's when it's free. So some of our businesses are thriving because their restaurants, bars, whatever, they're open for that clientele. So their customers, their employees are getting free parking, while retailers who typically close around 5 or 6, they are not reaping that same benefit. Their customers have to pay parking, their employees have to pay parking. And so it doesn't feel very equitable. I would love to see some kind of compromise. If there could be free parking, say after 2 p.m., that would give retailers a little bit. Well, parking's already free at 5. So if it would just be free parking after 2 p.m. Or we could take the parking fee after 5 to make it the difference. Right, just something to make it a little more fair and to see how that might affect retail businesses in a probably possible manner. Because we do understand that there is a cost to offering free parking. It's never just free parking. Or there's a loss, I should say. There would be a loss of income for the parking committee. But so we asked City Commission for free parking for November, December. Honestly, anything would help. And perhaps on an even longer term view, something like free parking after 2 p.m. That could maybe be year round. But we'd like to just see that addressed and see some support. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Yeah, for the presentation and for being here and the effort in doing the petition. So I want to have committee members our goal today is to discuss this idea, ask questions. And if we can get to a recommendation, these two are kind of tied together. So maybe I might just dive right into the chamber proposals so we can talk about them together. We'll see committee members nodding, is that helpful?
Yes.
I think chamber responded to the petition.
Yeah, so the chamber has done,
Yeah.
thank you for that clarification. So, the chamber has also submitted a proposal to the city, in response to this petition. Callie sends her regrets, she can't be here today, she was double booked herself. Did she ask you to present on her behalf? Okay, just sure. So the proposal from the chamber, I don't really want to read the whole thing, but it was. This,
Let me give you a summary.
sure, if you want to summarize, great.
So the chamber's proposal was basically 12 days play off the 12 days of Christmas, 12 days of free parking. And the chamber and their partners would go out and get businesses to sponsor those 12 days so that not only the businesses had the advantage of having the free parking and things downtown open, but parking would not lose that revenue and put them, farther behind the 8 ball. So that was their proposal. There were some, things that, potentially that they kind of addressed some of the other items, but I won't go into detail on that, but basically 12 days free parking. Callie and I kind of talked about it real quick and, potentially some days around Thanksgiving, which Thanksgiving and Black Friday are already free. And then, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the weeks of December, if they could get sponsorship to cover those that time.
Do you want to, you've done some research on the math of what a day of parking, are you prepared to present?
Yeah,
that
Chris
research?
and I.
Great, who wants to present it?
Sure. So. Generally, over those 2 months. Between. Pay to park and permit sales.
It's matches what you told me.
Yeah, we bring in about $60,000 to $65,000 per month. Every month.
So 120 for those.
About 120,000 for those 2 months is what we bring in total. About 50,000 of that is from pay to park. So not quite half. So last year in November, it was 23,000. And December it was like 28. So about, if you average that, about $25,000 a month in those 2 months will bring in pay to park. And then we kind of broke that down into the number of business days in the months and all that kind of stuff. And when we added in, there's a cost associated with us actually programming the kiosks to not accept money on those days. So we added that in. So when you kind of bundle everything together between the loss of revenue and the cost associated with making those days free, it was going to be about $1,700 per day.
$1,700 a day.
And so part of the bigger problem is, if we were to say the free parking downtown, our monthly permit holders and our annual permit holders would want to see that reflected in their annual, so we have to give refunds to our annual permit holders. And our monthlies would then have, we can have to prorate it up into January or give those refunds back as well, because it's hard to say only on-street parking is going to be free and the garages wouldn't be, or so we've heard that before. When we give the free days or we extend the free days, is why aren't we getting prorated on our permits?
And so if you take, so the $1,700 does not include the loss of revenue on permits, that's just the pay to park. We have about, you saw just those garages and lot numbers. We have about 1,200 to 1,400 permits total. And so you take even just $1,200 and if you break that out per day, you know, yeah, maybe it's only $5 a day per permit, but I mean, that's another $6,000 per day that we'd lose if we had to go down that road.
So can
Well,
I
you-
ask, or is it not mine?
No, this is, yes, Joe, you have a question.
I'm wondering why, I know you would hear that you're giving free parking, but if we're giving free parking to increase the shopping, most of the permit holders are working down there, right? Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, I think that's a
Assumption.
fair assumption. We don't have parking.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Are they not?
if we're
also
trying to
shopping?
promote
Sorry, we're both interrupting.
in residents, so it's.
Yeah.
So. I guess I don't see, I know people would complain. And say what, you're giving this part of free, but why not us? But I think the whole idea is to promote the downtown and the merchants and the bringing people downtown. So I don't know if you could put up with the flack you would get for that, or we get a, you know. But I just want to think about that, I guess. If
So,
the,
yeah, to answer your question, Joan, I guess the kind of the elegance of the chambers, proposal is that it's not free. Somebody's covering the park, even though the parking would be given for free.
who would cover that?
They have donors on their list that donate to other things
Oh, so it's
during the
not.
seasons.
the
It's not,
business
it's not
people.
the business.
It would be like
Right,
a
exactly.
It's a sponsorship. So,
Is that right?
I hope so.
so that's why it was proposed that way
Uh-huh.
and Alicia
Yeah, it
McGill
would be the bigger members. I
Oh,
think Kelly would approach.
Thanks, construction companies who may want to work with the chamber to sponsor
Utility company.
utility companies. Yeah, those are the bigger.
You can ask them, because you like them.
You're right.
so maybe they could
Okay,
cover
okay,
the.
member question, all right. Joan, did that answer
helps.
your question?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I have a question. Julia, we had the BRT or the chamber did sponsor a 3-day parking in the past. Like
Yeah.
1 or 2 days.
We sponsored, I think, one day at the past. I don't think we did it last year.
No, it was not last year.
Do you know what day it was? Like Christmas Eve or something?
No, I think it was I think we just established a day during the Christmas season and we paid for one day, the VIP.
Because it's
But
surprise.
and we advertised that, but that has to go through and be voted on by our members. We can't. I mean, we haven't,
It was more just history ones.
right,
Can I make a different proposal?
We're in the discussion as committee member and then I'm gonna pause and we do public comments before we get to the. Yeah.
So. I think petition brings up a concern, which we all know. People think for parking is a perception of a problem, and we also know that there's lots of parking spaces out there. But we all got hooked on parking's bad, therefore that's why our business is poor. Which is a piece of it, I'm sure, but there's other factors in there we need to worry about. The chamber, I think it was good to come up and say, hey, let's make a solution to this. I'm concerned that's a short-term solution for the holidays. It's, if you happen to want to shop between Thanksgiving and the 10th, it's free. I would encourage this, I don't know what it costs, if you know, when does the most. When do you make the most money on the kiosk, like before 2?
We haven't, Brian, we didn't run those numbers.
So I'm thinking, let's try a proposal of. You know. Things are, I don't know, say things are tight, but find a better way to market, because you know, you're gonna say, parking's free downtown during the holidays. You're gonna have 12 days, and then someone on the 13th is gonna get a ticket. And we're gonna do more damage of saying, you know. I didn't want to shop till the 18th because I didn't get paid till the 15th. Or whatever. What if we do something and say, parking downtown from Thanksgiving through the new year to the new year is free from 2 o'clock on. So it's like you know, the message is, we have to pay for parking to keep the structures going. We know things are tight and goofy for the world right now. This is a way for us to say, if you can squeeze in between, you know, finishing your work, run down, park for 2 months. And help the merchants by shopping locally. And then you don't have the merchants saying, oh, that was last week. That doesn't have this, and then just kind of, and do a test. And see what, you know, did we lose more revenue? How much revenue did we really lose from 2 to 5? I think we lose customers who are coming out of the workforce at 4:30 from the Capitol and saying, well, I need to shop. Oh, it's 20 minutes before 5. I'm not gonna stop. I don't want to get a ticket. So I'm just thinking, what if we try something like that? It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3. And then ask,
I have another thing to say on that, and that is, there's 506 2-hour parking spaces for free downtown. Why not just have a PR spot that says parking is free? There's, you know, why not just say that? There's 506 2-hour parking spaces downtown. If you're gonna go downtown from between 2 and 5. I mean, I can tell you where I park. If I'm going downtown, I know where the 2-hour spots are. If I'm just going down there for a short time, I just pull in. And I legally don't pay for parking. I can access.
I'm just trying to figure out, how do we do a perception thing as we're making this change over to, you know, deal with people, you have to pay for parking, because there's infrastructures that do it. We need to make it so it's not so painful. Or at least that the merchants have some short little 5-word sentence that says, this is why we have parking. You know, and then we look at people and say, if you can't handle this, you need to consider why your business is downtown. Because there's a cost of doing business downtown. And, you know, having the merchants subsidize themselves, having a bank subsidize downtown so somebody can shop this time of year, I find a little hard when we have so many other shortages and things that some bank's gonna say, well, I'm gonna give money.
What about hungry? Yeah.
Yeah, what about hungry? You know, we just gave,
Homeless on the street.
we just gave, you know, a thing versus us saying, we get it. What we need right now is we need people to come to our local businesses and make this work. And parking has decided to help us out a little bit by giving us, and we either find a way to subsidize some of it, or we just say to the public, we hear you. The only way this is gonna work is you need to get your butt downtown and spend money and make these local people work.
I just don't, I mean, we're already going in the hole every time somebody parks downtown. We just saw the numbers. We're going in the hole every time somebody parks downtown. That's a problem. We can't continue to keep going in the hole. And I just don't think we can provide.
Are you prepared to lose tenants because they, you know, I think the people are on the edge, and I think it's pushing people. The unknown is huge.
But the permit is a different.
No, I'm not talking permits. I'm just saying, are you prepared as a landlord for me to come to you as your leasee and say, I thought I could do it, but you know what? I was 10% down this year and I couldn't make it work. And it might just be prolonging the occupancy deficit. But that's what I'm worried about. And same thing to you. And on the flip side, we've just given you lots more taxes to pay for. Property taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk about tip now.
Oh, I'd love to talk about tips,
Yeah.
because I can tell you as a building,
Perpetrator problem.
but I'm not going to.
This is, okay, there we go.
But as a building owner, I can tell you this, I'm out there with the cold patch, patching the parking lot behind my building, myself. And I'm trimming the landscaping above my building. There's a homeless guy living in the juniper, so I keep trimming it back. I've trimmed out all the. You know, and there's gravel and rocks in that parking lot. There's meters that were cut off, that the holes haven't been filled. there's weeds coming up. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what we're presenting to people that come downtown. And last night I was in the 10 mile having a beer, spending money downtown. And there was a gal having a party because she's switching jobs at the Blackfoot tonight. And I said, well, no, I can't be there because I'm gonna be at the parking advisory committee. And she goes, man, I would pay way more. I would pay twice what I pay now to come downtown. She's like, I don't see what the big deal is. So it's partly perception.
And I think the other issue is, you look at our businesses and you say, you're open till 5 or 5:30. You're open from 10 to 4 on Saturdays, you're not open on Sunday. There's, the mix isn't quite there, the merchants need to say, hey, I also need to stay open longer hours, because if I work 8 to 5, I can't get to downtown. Unless it's for 5 hours on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then we look at our mix and you say, I go out in the valley. And you can live in the whole valley, I've discovered, without ever knowing downtown exists.
Yeah.
We have a discretionary income population. And maybe we need to be looking at the mix of what are we not doing? I mean, Mark, 10 years ago or 15, our conversation was the restaurant people going, we can barely make it. We can't keep people, we can't keep food. And you could throw a ball down the walking mall and not hit anybody. So every time I go by at night, they go, yeah, the distillery's packed. They're putting life down there. Yeah, they don't pay for parking, but it's bringing those people down and going, oh, that's a cool store. I'm coming back. And staying open until 8 or 9, not going to work. Our population doesn't shop that way. I don't think we're asking the merchants to stay open until 9 on Friday nights or Saturdays. I would encourage Sundays. But I think that we've done is we've let the public tell us parking is the issue. And the merchants and the people are saying, yes, that's our problem. And I say we got other problems here that we also need to address. And I don't know how you fix all of that.
Well,
but we have landlords that have empty spaces and won't rent them.
Let's try to
Yeah.
keep the conversation about these two proposals. Christopher, I want to just make sure you're still on, and if you had comment on these two proposals or questions. Just wait a second to see if you, yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been listening intently, and I think you all have very good points. With some of the pressures that we're all facing, I don't want to keep rehashing it, and I think I would be in sympathy and in agreement with considering extending free parking for the holiday season. Something to consider. I don't know if we as a city have done that before, since we've had paid parking or not. But I know that would come at a cost, obviously, and I don't know if David, if you have any estimates or figures, if what is the potential impact to the budget, if we were to not have those not to have that income during that period. I guess that'd be kind of hard to guess future use, but I guess looking back at last year's figures, what potentially could that be if we say did not collect, during the periods that we're proposing. So that's the only thing I wanted to say and ask that question as well. Thank you.
I'll answer that a little bit, Christian. Thank you. I think and I don't know if you can see Chris. Left the room. I think he went to go find some hours, but he estimated it's about $25,000 a month for pay to park. And so if 12 days is half of the month, it would be half of that. Right? To $12,500. Can I cut in half? While talking. But again, that's just the pay to park. That would be the cost to the city.
So
Do you think that's a fair, or you want to?
that's fair.
Number 12 days.
The 12 days would be like 20,000. But because we have a budget, just like everybody does, if we take that $20,000 hit or that $50,000 hit, then that money has to come from someplace.
Yeah.
And so we have $55,000 right now in capital to do the weeds, the landscape and everything like that. So if we were to take a 20 or 30, that money is gonna come from that capital because we don't have any other money for the general fund doesn't subsidize parking, parking pays for itself, so whatever bills get paid, that's how we budget for parking. So that's my concern as, you know, the business owner of Helen Parking, that I have to cover my expenses as well. I get it. I totally understand that, you know, the times are, you know, everybody's trying to pinch pennies at this time. So, you know, I guess my hope would be that, you know, there comes to some consensus that, you know, maybe there's a little give and take on both sides because parking at this point can't take, you know, that big a hit.
And if you let, you know, people pay for it, so you don't lose all your revenue.
But here's the problem with that is, A, we need 30 days to program. The folks that do the programming of the kiosk need 30 days advance notice.
Oh, that's.
Oh.
So really, they be faster, that takes care of this money.
No, so you can advertise all you want, but if the kiosks are not gonna turn off at 2 o'clock, so people can still plug meters. And it costs us $350 every time we ask them to change something.
I like this.
Okay, yeah.
But they make a donation if they.
What if you put something on the kiosk that says it's free, don't, in here, but feel free to if you wanna help someone else park.
They have to, it's a,
No, use paper.
I know,
Yeah, you
but
don't mess.
they would still
I
do
think
their
it's-
license plate.
Hopefully it doesn't snow.
Okay,
A
alright,
question, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I didn't understand that part of, I just heard earlier like the per week figure and I just didn't connect the dots. So another consideration is, you know, other cities do offer a free parking, but not to the extent that I think that we're proposing, you know, like 2 months worth or a month worth. Usually it's one day, which doesn't help much, but these are, you know, fairly larger cities. Usually Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. You know, maybe a counter, I don't know if it was mentioned, is maybe just that week of Christmas might be something that we could consider to just have free parking if that's amenable to, you know, to folks and to our budget. I don't know. Just throwing out some ideas there. Thank you.
David, will you remind me, right now there's free parking on holidays that matches the state holiday schedule. City holidays, excuse me.
Yep.
And so it's Thanksgiving Day and the day after are free, because those are city holidays. And what about Christmas? Is it just Christmas Day? Okay, it's just Christmas Day and just New Year's Day, if they fall on the weekday? Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Joe, did you have another question?
I was wondering if I could ask. them.
You can ask them the questions. Wait.
When do you think your busiest week is between Thanksgiving and Christmas? Is it the week before Christmas or the week after Thanksgiving? Or is it the same all the way through?
It varies, but I would say the week before Christmas is busier.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't always happen that way.
Mhm.
Last year, it was not that case at all. People were shopping in November. They were worried about supply chain issues. So it's really hard to tell.
It's hard to say. Okay.
I know questions are not supposed to be asked, but can the kiosk be programmed to exempt certain days?
Yes. Yeah, so that's what David was saying, that there's a charge when we program the kiosk to do certain days. So currently the kiosks are,
There ought to be somebody in the city can beat that price.
it's a software that the city pays for.
Oh,
and so
Lord.
that's why, yeah. Okay, I have held off on my comments, so can I get my comments?
Sure.
Okay. I've been thinking about this a lot and have, been talking to a lot of people about it, so real good use of my time. A couple of things that were said and I wanna echo, and Abigail had to leave, but she's not wrong when she's saying, you know, the communications on parking are not great. And I sympathize with that, and I also wanna say, like, point to city communication that is great, you know, it's kind of the nature of city government that it's hard. And I don't mean that as a dig to staff or to city government, but, you know, there's a different marketing budget for public entities as there are for other entities. And I think with some of the cost savings that the staff has been working for, you know, with different staff changes and they've had turnover, you know, that can be a loss of a champion or a regular communicator for parking. Several, I don't know what year it was that parking commission, BID in downtown Helena were all one building with the chamber, and you know, it was a real consistent marketer of downtown parking. It had its own cons, it was its own little fiefdom, but it also had some pros, you know, that they could spend money explaining that. So I want to acknowledge that we do have a marketing problem for parking downtown. I'm concerned that free parking, somebody said, Joan said, it's gonna be, I mean, you said, gonna be detrimental later. It's gonna have lasting effects of our already challenge of talking about what's going on downtown. So in twofold, one that's saying we're offering free because we know paid parking is terrible. I'm not ready to make that statement.
I'm not saying it's terrible.
But I think there's an implication that it
Yeah.
is. And then two, I think if it's free parking where there's no, you don't need to do anything, you can just come downtown and park. That's a missed opportunity to get people in the habit to use the parking tools that are there. To use the system as it's set up, whether it's to find a 2-hour spot, to buy a monthly permit, or to do the hour free or the 15-minute free. I think that will have lasting harm, you know, that we aren't helping people use the system as it's designed, whether or not we agree with that design. So my thought is if the chamber really wants to do something around this, I talked to Kelly briefly about it. I think they should use the merchant validation program. That way it gets, and so as a reminder, the merchant validation program is a tool that comes with the Passport app. And it's a national tour for anyone who uses Passport. A merchant can make an account and put in money for the account and create parking validation codes that then can be distributed. So the 12 days of parking could be facilitated through merchant codes that the chamber or their sponsors purchase and then distribute. Obviously, there's flaws, it could be clunky, people don't want to use the Passport app, but the problem is that they would use it and then realize how simple it is. I mean, that's one of the conversations that I hear. There is a perception, or sometimes we make fun of boomers, apologies to the boomers in the room, that you won't use the Passport app, but I've been pulling the boomers and they're like, yeah, I downloaded it, it was great, I use it all the time, I don't see the problem. And so, you know, once we get over that, once we get over that barrier, you know, people are using it and it's fun. And so this could be an opportunity to get over the barrier. So, and then it doesn't, if we did something, if we used the merchant validation, it would not be any different work for the city. They wouldn't have to change anything. It would be no cost difference. It would just be who's paying for the parking would be paid by the sponsors to the chamber's program or whoever wants to use that.
So how would these guys get that?
That's where Callie and, I mean, the chamber and them would have to work together. And, you know, maybe there's a bunch of these made that then get distributed to all the businesses. And then you hand them out on Black Friday when it's free parking, and then they come back another time, or it's a thank you for coming, use this next time, or it's stop into us first, get your ticket. You know, I think we can figure out the logistics of it, and I know there would be some costs involved in marketing that. But I mean, it's a system that exists, not without flaws, but it does exist. Let's see, I had a different comment, but I think that would be my proposal, because we have talked so hard on, or we've been really diving into the budget. And to quote Seth, I mean, things are bad out there, the weeds,
the dirt,
I,
the juniper.
I like where you're going. I mean,
Sorry, not to.
actually Alicia and I talked about it a little bit. But I like it because the other thing it does is it trains businesses to use the parking validation. Now, when I owned a business downtown for about 5 years, somebody came in, they didn't have. We had meters back then, which I liked because it turned the parking over in our parking lot. But we had a big bucket of goldies or quarters. And we were paying for parking for our customers. If anybody needed a quarter or a goldie to pay for their parking, we would give it to them. Because we were gonna make money regardless if we, so we did that. And I think a lot of merchants, if they knew you were gonna come into your store and at least shop or spend money, then, But, especially if we had a sponsor, that would put some money into.
How about a gift from Tiff?
Well, yeah. It just doesn't work that way. That's,
Only that was an open pot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so, go ahead, sorry.
well, I just wanna say, I think most people downtown, and I would like to ask you that, are not aware of just how dire the budget is. I mean, as the advisory committee, we're watching the facilities go further and further downhill without the money, and it's happening every year without the money to fix these things. And it's kind of a desperate situation, like, well, if we don't get the money from, the parking income, where's it gonna come from? It's a tough situation. Yeah.
Alicia, do you have, as the BID, did you have a comment or recommendation on either one of these proposals?
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm thinking split the baby here, maybe take the chamber up on their offer. Using merchant validation, I like your idea that it's a great way to get people into that and using it. And then maybe we use, because we have an immediate need, and then maybe we use next year. To think more about Sandy's program,
I got an idea, so on the merchant thing.
Are you done?
yes.
Oh,
Sorry. So just on the merchant thing, so if the chamber prints out, let's say, 1,000 tickets, gives each of us, a page or two or whatever. If they're not redeemed, it doesn't cost the chamber, right?
Correct.
Sits in their account.
So what we could do is have the merchants give out the validation codes. With it, next time you're downtown, here's free parking. They don't have to lose that piece of thing, and then we have bowls in the merchant spots says, did you park with the free parking? Put your name and number in here. And then the merchants come up with some giveaways or whatever. So that, we're thanking the chamber. We're forcing people to use it. They have to come to the store once to get it. They have to come back, put it into a drawing. So basically you'd put your receipt, you'd punch in your code, you put your receipt back into one of the merchants that says, hey, do you want to win some more free parking downtown? Or do you want to win a basket from Lasso? Or something, and then we can actually look at who's using those things. Are they, and have the merchants, stamp a little, name on the back of all those little things before they give them out. And so, I would go, well, look, I got this from Birds and Beasley's, but it got redeemed near Lasso of the Moon, and you caught the thing that went in the bucket. So we'd say that person came up to Birds and Beasley's, they got a thing, they moved around. Next time they parked, or the last time they parked, they finished the little merchant validation, and you got it. And we could track those pretty easily by just sorting them, having the merchants put where they started. And then in order to be eligible, you have to put your name and what place you redeemed at the end, or where you shopped last, or where you shopped the most. It might be that the breweries all have, you might have a ton, the other day something like a done.
Yeah.
Because I've been collecting them for a week. But that'd be a good PR thing that you could talk to people. It wouldn't be too complicated, I don't think.
Okay, here's what I'd like to do for sake of time. I would like to make a proposal that our committee recommendation is that we do not offer free parking where the city is paid to change program to offer free parking. It's maybe not the best way to do it, but we don't do free parking via the city system. And instead, our recommendation is that the chamber provides free parking using the merchant validation program. And so that it does not cause change to the city and, but could be a marketing opportunity for small businesses. So that is my recommendation. I would like our committee to vote on. Does anyone of committee members have comments on that recommendation?
Yeah, it's the chamber's proposal. It's not actually the chamber that's paying for it. It's that we revised the chamber's proposal to use we recommend that the chamber revise
There you go.
proposal
We recommend.
to
Yes.
use the parking validation, business parking validation,
Merchant, I think is the official term.
looking merchant parking validation system that has been set.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So do you think the merchants know how to use this?
That's what.
That's,
That's what I've learned.
that could be,
So it could
Um,
be some training?
it could be a benefit. I will add that Alicia sent it out this week to, what'd you say, 40-ish businesses more. With, these materials, but then also she tested it out in a little guide. And this is a national thing, it's not a unique to Alabama thing, so it's, it's not super easy, but it's not hard.
It's not.
Yeah.
As a merchant user, it uses a human. As a customer, use it not hard.
Oh, I
Merchant,
mean,
right?
I set up an account in 5 minutes or
As a
so figured out how to print it out. I think there's a lot of settings you can use. Yes,
So the easier part, so is if the chamber is sponsoring, right, they're obviously the ones that collect the money from whoever sponsors.
Mhm.
So really, the chamber is the only person that needs to know how to use the merchant validation itself.
if they, yeah.
They would set up the codes, the money would still go through them. They would just have to give the businesses the codes.
Oh,
So the businesses would, the most of their education would just be knowing how to go on the app and put the code in to redeem it.
But
Yeah.
the win-win is that the merchants go, well, look, these people keep coming in.
Right.
With merchant things, either I could use it for my employees or better yet, it's the modern Goldie coins.
So
And any merchant could do that now regardless whatever.
Right, but it's them
Yeah.
seeing it.
So
that, yeah.
sorry, Sandy, to cut you off. So we have a recommendation that I would like us to vote on. Before we do that, I need to open it up for public comment. That's my first thing. So public comment on this recommendation that the city not provide free parking, but that the chamber modify their proposal to provide free parking using the merchant validation system is a recommendation. Any public comment? And I'm going, oh, I can't switch it. There's still a 3-minute time limit for public comment, but if you want to use less, that's great. Mark?
I'm very impressed with how taken something that seemed like kind of problematic idea that would have benefits and negatives, especially if you fund the whole parking infrastructure and come up with something that seems like, it does seem like a win-win solution for everybody. Yeah. Great.
Thank you for your public comment.
pretty much quite public.
No, we don't bother you in a minute. And we're in public comment right now. Amy or Stan, do you have public comment or a response to this proposal?
I think that sounds like a great option that we should try out. It does depend on the chamber being able to secure sponsors. And so we'd like to be in the loop about that as that progresses. We don't really have very much time. But we appreciate all of your thoughts and being willing to work together and find a compromise. So thank you.
Francis, was it?
Yes,
Did you have any public comment?
I
Ken actually.
I have several suggestions, but I don't know that since I don't understand the residential parking permit thing, I know that the people, myself included, in the Atlas building cannot afford to get tickets all the time. Or like one of my neighbors had his impounded and paid $460 to get his car out of Hawk.
Put that on the
And
agenda.
it's kind of ugly.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that that's good business sense to target people who live in the downtown area. I'm sorry, we're poor, but, really I am right now. But, at the same time, we are citizens of the city and generally speaking, at least for myself, I don't cost the city any money. I'm not speaking for my neighbors that might end up in jail once in a while, but anyway, I have a very, very strange building. I think I could get a PhD in dysfunction.
Thank you for your comment.
I do have an public comment.
Oh, you have a public
I'm a
comment?
member of the public.
All right,
too,
fine, as
sometimes.
long as you're talking as a member of the
Yes,
public.
Me as public member, Chris Cody, now deputy director. Cody.
Okay.
So I would like to see, I think, a compromise on both sides. And there was sorry, I don't remember your name, but Savannah made a comment earlier about, a lot of the retailers are only open until 5 p.m. I would like to see a compromise on both sides of the member public. I live less than a mile from downtown, and I can never shop at any of those types of stores because I appear until almost 6 o'clock most days. And so my only option is a Saturday, and most of them are closed on Sundays. My only option is a Saturday. And so, I mean, I think during the holiday times, as part of a compromise, I'd like to see some of those businesses that do struggle with customers that complain about the parking to shift hours during those seasons. And instead of 10 to 5, do 12 to 8, something to that effect. Take advantage of the free evening parking for those customers and for people, I think the average person like me that can't get there before 5 o'clock during the week. And then, I mean, I would come down and shop downtown a lot more often if the opportunity presented itself to just swing in after work.
Follow our Instagram and our Facebook because we post our hours all the time. We don't kick anyone out at this time of the year. We stay until people are done shopping. And we're open Sundays, but we are short staffed.
And so it's really hard.
Yeah, but as we have staff, December, we're open Sundays, we're open late. That is the perception that people have. But in fact, we do extend our hours during the season because this is when we make most of our money. So,
Yeah. So we're gonna cut you off since we've done our public comment. Now we can vote on this recommendation from our committee so that it can get passed along to the commission. So again, let's see, I move this recommendation. Would any committee member like to second the recommendation?
I'll second. Can you
Second it, so the recommendation is that, or we recommend that the city does not offer free parking or use city resources to offer free parking. And that can mean, I'll just say it that way, but for us, that means like changing the kiosks and stuff. And instead, we recommend that the chamber modify their proposal to offer free parking using the Merchant Foundation system.
Okay.
Did you get that, Sandy?
I
Okay,
got
is that
it.
right?
It's recording, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's
So we have
second?
a motion from me, a second from Seth. Staff, did you have a comment before we vote?
I just wanted to recognize the fact that the chamber would have to go out to get the funding to fund this. And that, we heard the week of Christmas, maybe the week of Thanksgiving. There could be some guidance from the parking advisory committee, so if they only get 2 weeks worth of sponsored parking, they can target that in the most effective spot. Or is it just, handed out, and when it runs out, it runs out.
This recommendation is telling the chamber to use the tool that exists, and it would be up to the chamber to decide how they want to implement that tool.
Yeah.
I think the
Our
goal,
recommend-
you wouldn't mess with you, you just.
Yeah,
You can,
I know that, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, if
Yeah.
they get,
pushback.
if they get $2,000, is it gonna just be spent? Validation codes up until the $2,000 are spent, or do they target these validation codes are gonna be good for the week of Christmas?
Right. And as I, again, I'm sensitive on time, as a committee member, I'm also sensitive to not tell another business or entity what to do. That our recommendation is to use this tool. Okay, so we have a motion, we have seconded, any further discussion from committee members on this motion? Great, hearing none, we will do a roll call vote on this motion. Starting to my left, Seth,
Aye.
Joan. Aye. Sandy,
aye,
Christopher.
Yes.
wake up.
Nice to down. And myself, I vote aye. All right, we have unanimously approved this recommendation. We will work with staff. We were on the November 12th agenda to talk about rates, but we were taken off from rates. Staff,
So I talked to the manager, if we came to a recommendation tonight, that November 12th, we would go under the manager's report to make that recommendation. If not, then we still had time to come back.
okay, so we made a recommendation so we could be under his report on the
Yes.
12th. Does public comment happen during his reports? Or only if the mayor wants to?
The mayor can entertain it.
If he wants to, okay. But interested parties could attend that city admin meeting, which starts at 4 next Wednesday. Upstairs in the room. 326, okay, great. It is 7:05, we are gonna talk about rates next month, because we're just gonna keep talking about rates until we do something about rates. And I think we should add an agenda item to talk about housing and parking.
For instance, right there.
Yeah. I don't-
Yeah, we need to pay attention, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
And what we're recommending is that in December, we put you on the agenda. And so we can find out what your issues are. I'm not sure we knew that.
Sandy, I don't need to
Sorry.
overspeak
Yeah,
about putting her personally on the agenda,
Why
but
not?
that would be an agenda topic.
Yeah, I'm
We're
saying
diving
that
into.
we heard your concern. We can't really do anything about it tonight.
Well, I'd spoken with David about parking,
Yeah,
about a person in the building that has disabled. And got a ticket for the actual disabled, there's only one disabled parking spot on Jackson, and that's where he got the ticket.
just be aware this is a lengthy kind of process sometimes.
We're
Obviously,
just checking,
no,
checking for the item.
Yeah,
I've kind of touched bases with you guys before. I don't if you don't understand something and you cannot ask questions, it's very difficult to formulate any kind of statement.
Yes.
do you feel like we've heard you, that we will address this down the line?
Pardon me?
Do you feel like that you've gotten, like you've heard, we've heard you, do you feel like,
Yes,
Okay.
I know that you,
So just-
obviously I have a voice.
yes, well, just bear with us as we go through this process.
Yeah, well, and at the meantime, back at the ranch, the people are paying and it's not cool.
No,
Other future agenda items, sorry to interrupt, but to keep us moving on, I do want to revisit the map, the public facing map. And so David, you can work with Alpha Graphics, or maybe you'll have another proposal on that. Joan, did you have another agenda item for next month?
No, I just wanted, if we can tie in more about the rest, what's happening with the
Oh,
residential.
Yes, we can
stuff.
have an update on the residentials because those notice letters were out.
Right.
Thank you for that
To
reminder.
include your issue. The other thing I have, what is the date of the commission? You said that it's Wednesday, the 12th?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think they're gonna be talking about a lot of exciting things, so not to miss meeting. Roundabout? Okay.
You
the
got it.
residential update. So,
That's
all right.
December 12th.
No,
November.
November 12th, next
Oh.
Wednesday. Okay. That was our pros meeting items. We're not gonna talk about any report recommendations right now. Our next meeting is December 11th in this room, back at our normal time of 4 p.m. Again, the survey is open. Oh,
How we doing?
we have posters for the survey. Andy, I have a feeling you're gonna wanna take some of these.
Yeah.
The survey is open until December 5th. For the public, this survey is not about free parking. It's more to help inform our decision related to rate changes. Okay,
And how people use parking.
and how people use parking downtown. I'm actually very excited about the survey. Amanda and David worked really hard on it and it's great.
I'll take a couple.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I sound like.
Oh, Sandy moved to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye, we're adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you, sorry to rush.
No.
Now we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same.
Yeah, you got it. What do you want?